Well, good morning, everyone. I'm recording this on Sunday because I've got a very busy Monday morning where I've got lots of meetings thinking about how we begin to open school up wider. But I wanted to carry on with our reading. So I will post this on YouTube and I'll put the link out on Show My Homework so that people can follow along if they would like to. So in our last encounter in Stone Cold, we saw that Shelter had committed his first act of murder against a defenseless, helpless, homeless person. And we've been looking at those two narrative voices through the narrative voice of Lincoln, the narrative voice of Shelter, and how they're used by Swindells to set very different pictures of what's going on. So we will carry on. Page 31. I found a doorway, a good deep one, so deep that light from street lamps and shop fronts didn't reach the door itself, and you could sit with your back against it and not be seen by passers-by. It was 9 o'clock and cold. I sat on my bedroll, my backpack between my feet, watching the bright, narrow rectangle of movement, of colour at the end of the little tunnel. People paused continuously, but nobody glanced my way. Nobody knew I was there. Across the street, I could see subway railings with a news vendor's pitch, a road junction, and part of King's Cross Station. I sat thinking about my rat-faced former landlord who couldn't spell negotiation, about how one day I'll catch up him unawares in a dark alleyway, and about the inventive and wondrous things I do to him there. I was angry and a bit shaken, I suppose. I was particularly unhappy. Not then. My anonymity was a comfort. At least I wasn't going to be seen by people who knew me. Also, I was one amongst many. My plight could have been no curiosity value for anybody who might spot me, and there was no further need to fret about next week's rent. I felt, well, free, I suppose. This was because I became acquainted with some of the setbacks, like hunger pangs and real cold, and a problem a lot to do when you have to go to the lavatory and guard your bedroom at the same time. It was this last one which got to me first and lost me my doorway, and more besides. As I've said, I found my lovely doorway around 9 o'clock, and for a time it was okay sitting there watching the world go by. In fact, it was quite pleasant in a way. But by 11, my feet and legs were cold, and I was tired. My bedroll was giving me a numb bum. I was dying for a pee. I saw no problem, though. The station was just across the way. There'd be toilets in there somewhere. All I had to do was stroll across. The numbness would go, and the walk would warm me up. Of course, I'd have to take my stuff. If I left it back here in the dark, it might be all right, but you can't take that sort of chance when you're a bedroll and backpack or all you've got in the world. So, 11:15, I got up and totted my stuff across to the station. The gents turned out to be halfway down platform 1, but there was no barrier, so I motored on down, passing some down and out sitting on the benches. And the place was underground. I trotted down the steps, beginning to relax like you do when you know relief is imminent. And this snag 1. At the foot of the stairs was a turnstile, 10 pence. I dropped in my roll and fished in my pockets. A 50, 2 20s and some copper. No 10. There was a glass box, a sort of office, so there must be an attendant. I called out, "Excuse me." My predicament was becoming acute. There was no answer. Nothing stirred. I glanced all around and chucked my roll over the stile and followed it. The relief was terrific. Halfway through, the door of a cubicle opened and out popped a runty little guy of about 50 with a peak cap and a fag hanging out of his gob. "Here," he croaked. "Have you paid?" No, I stammered. He'd made me splash on my trainers. "I haven't got..." "I don't give a toss what you haven't got, son." He was really hoarse, a 60 a day man. I could probably push him over with one hand. I'd been about to ask him to change 20 pence, but his attitude upset me, and I decided I'd vault the stile and save myself 10p. I've no dosh, I told him, zipping up. He stood in front of the turnstile. You don't leave until you've paid. His fag wagged up and down as he spoke, sifting ash down his front. I looked at him. Get out of the way, old man. He shook his head. More ash. I moved towards him, swinging my roll. He dodged and swung an inept punch at my head. I ducked, shoved him aside, and vaulted the stile. I felt terrific, streetwise and tough. But I didn't linger in the station. I pictured him in the glass box, phoning the railway police. I hurried back up the platform and out to the street. When I got back to my doorway, somebody was there. I didn't see him till I kicked his foot. He leapt at me, a 6-footer as wide as the door. What's your problem, whack? I was here first. God, what a stupid thing to say. He poked me in the chest. Sod off, kiddo, before I drop you. But I've been here 2 hours, protested. I just went in the station for a sod off. Nah. I knew I'd have to go too. This was no chain-smoking runt you could knock down with a feather. This guy was what I'd been kidding myself. I'd become a streetwise tough. I turned away with a lump in my throat. It felt like I'd spend the rest of my life being pushed around. It's not fair, I choked. What a wally I was. Fair? If I'd gone straight away, he might not have spotted the watch on my wrist, but he did. He grabbed my sleeve. Nice watch, giz it? No. The watch was my last treasure, a present from my mum before Vince came on the scene. I tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip. Giz it! If you don't want your face smashed in. I thought about calling for help. There were plenty of people passing, but I guess I knew it would do no good. Who's going to risk a fist or a knife to help a dosser? I took off the watch and handed it over. It was a struggle not to burst into tears. He grinned. Tar whack. Very nice of you. Now piss off. I went. Daily routine orders 7. It's like parachuting. Get the first jump over and it becomes routine, but you mustn't get complacent. Check your equipment every time. Run through procedures. Know what's what. Don't fall into any traps. There's a trap serial killers fall into, namely the trap of pattern. There's something the same about each of their killings, and this tells the law that it's the same person doing them. It also helps the police by saying something about the killer. For example, if all his victims are Mexican, they know they're probably looking for a bloke who hates Mexicans. If all the bodies are found in underground stations, they're after someone who hangs around underground stations. It's a trap, see? A trap of the killer's own making, because it narrows the field. I've got to be particularly careful about this. I can't help making a pattern because of my clients are dossers. Bound to be. Of course, they're not going to find bodies in underground stations or anywhere else. I'm not that daft. But there is this unavoidable pattern. So all I have to do is create as much variety as possible without straying beyond the borders of my appointed task. Last night's piece of business differed from its predecessors in several aspects. For one thing, my client was a female. I didn't select her because I like women or because I hate them. I can take them or leave them. As a matter of fact, I chose her because the last one was a male. That's all. And I didn't pick her up by Camden Tube because that's another pattern. I strode down Piccadilly Circus, strolled round Soho, and I spotted her coming out of the Regent Palace. Manky she was. You could see the grime on her neck from across the road, and there she was, stepping out of the hotel like a bleeding duchess or something. She'd sneaked in to use the toilet, of course. But how'd she got past security, I don't know. Anyway, I let her go a little way down the road before tapping her on the shoulder. Excuse me? She spun round. Yes? Hotel security, I snapped. Regent Palace. Well, I looked the part in my suit and trench coat. You were in the hotel just now, weren't you? She nodded. There was a look in her eyes like a hunted animal. Yes. I went to the toilet. Why? There has been a series of thefts. I'm afraid I must ask you to return with me to the hotel. Thefts? She looked desperate. I don't know anything about thefts. I told you I needed the toilet. I was only there for a minute. Poor cow. Looking as she did, she must have stuck out like a sore thumb in there. She wouldn't have lasted long enough to commit theft. I'm sorry, I said, but you must come along with me and answer some questions. It won't take long. Oh, God. She bit her lip. Look, I'm in enough trouble as it is. I'm homeless. I have no job and no money. I have nothing on me. Can't you just search me or something and let me go? She was close to tears, as they say in the Bodice Rippers. I judged it was time to pour my master stroke. I eyed her up and down speculatively. Wouldn't mind searching you at that, I purred. Homeless, you say? She nodded. I could see the dawn of hope in her eyes. Nasty night, too. How'd you fancy spending it in a cosy flat? I was brilliant. Nice warm bed. What do you mean? She knew what I meant. I smiled, and she said, You mean you want me to? I shrugged. It was just a thought, pal. You get off the hook as a suspect, and I get. I smiled again. She hesitated, but it didn't take her long to see how poor her alternatives were. She probably believed I'd fit her up on a theft charge if she opted to come to the Puritan. She nodded, looked down, and mumbled, Okay. The rest was simple. Taxi back to my place, Sappho, dry clothing, tomato soup, eternal oblivion. They looked so sweet, the two of them, side by side. I keep going down for another look. Ah, I must be getting soft. I trudged along Pentonville Road, peering into doorways and entrances to office blocks. My left wrist felt naked without the watch. I added the Scouser to my hit list. Rat Face and the Scouser. I was going to turn into a serial killer if I went on at this rate. After a bit, I came to a doorway which was both deep and unoccupied. I dodged into it and stood there, wondering whether I dared doss down. What if this was someone else's bedroom, too? Somebody big like the Scouser. Suppose he showed up and took a fancy to my pack and my bedroll and demanded them. Or he might just knife me and take them. On the other hand, it was now pretty late, though of course I didn't know what what the exact time was exactly. Surely, I told myself, if somebody dossed here regularly, he'd be here by now. Anyway, I was dead tired. I had to get my head down somewhere, and wherever I went, there was going to be this same doubt. So, I just wriggled into my sleeping bag and dropped my head on my pack when he arrived. Heard these footsteps and thought, keep going. Go past. Please go past. But he didn't. Footsteps stopped, and I knew he was looking down at me, and I opened my eyes. He was just a shadow framed in the doorway. This is your place? I croaked. Stupid question. He was going to say yes, even if it wasn't right. What I should have said was piss off. I wondered how big he was. Nah, you're all right, mate. He sounded laid back, amiable. Just shove up a bit so I can spread my roll. I obliged, and he settled himself beside me, so close we were always touching. It felt good to be with someone. Now, if anybody else turned up, it wouldn't matter. There were two of us. I felt I ought to say something, so I said, been doing this long? Hoping he wouldn't be offended. Well, 6, 7 months, he said. You? First night. He chuckled. I can tell. Where you from? Up north. From me. I can tell. It was a risk, this crack about his accent, but he only chuckled again. Name's Ginger, he said, and waited. I didn't want to give my name, not to anybody. Clean break, right? Fresh start. And anybody. He hadn't told me his. Ginger's only a nickname. Link, I said. I'd seen this signpost earlier, Thames Link. It's a railway. Oh, aye, he said, meaning, I don't believe you, but it's not heavy. Got a fag on you, Link? Don't smoke. Once I wished I did. He laughed again. You will? How do you mean? Been hungry? Have you? I mean, really hungry? No. No? Well, when you are, smoking helps. Dulls the pain a bit. Ah. You hungry now, Ginger? Bit? Why? You got grub? Got a Snicker in my pack. Do you want it? Don't you? No, not hungry. This wasn't completely true, but I thought perhaps I'd found a friend and I wanted to hang on to him. I opened my pack and groped about till I found the bar. Here. It's our mate. Sure you don't want it? Oh. Half? No, you eat it. I buckled my pack and lay with my eyes closed, listening to him eat. He was pretty hungry at that, you could tell. And when he finished, he said, better. Good night, Link. Night, Ginger. And that's how I met Ginger. I must have slept because the next thing I knew, somebody was nudging me none too gently in the back saying, come on, sunshine, let's have you. I opened my eyes and instantly screwed them shut as torchlight lanced into them. My first thought was that Ginger had changed his mind and wanted me out of his bedroom. But then my mind cleared and I knew it was the police. I sat up. It was still dark and bitterly cold as I began to peel off my sleeping bag. There were two officers, a man and a woman. Once they got us awake, they stood back and watched while we rolled our bags and strapped them to our packs. Don't forget that, grunted the guy, shining his torch on the screwed-up wrapper from my Snicker. Ginger picked it up and shoved it in his pocket. I thought they were going to arrest us or something, but as soon as we were packed on our feet, they moved off, shining their torches into doorways as they went. What time is it? I asked as we stood dazed with cold and sleep in the orange light of a street lamp. Ginger shook his head. Dunno. About 6, probably. Why'd they do that? Get us up, I mean. Why? He grimaced. We were in somebody's doorway. Wouldn't do for the owner or tenant or whatever to find us here when he came up, would it? I couldn't think of any answers to that, so I said, what now? He looked at me. You got any money? I nodded. 9 quid and some change. Fancy a coffee, bite to eat? Not half. I was starving. You? He smiled. You don't have to feed me, just because we shared a doorway. Folks like us, we've got to look after number one. Don't tell anybody else you got 9 quid or you won't have it long. We went to an all-night kebab house he knew about. It was warm and glaringly bright inside and smelled so good I'd practically drooled. The clock on the wall said 0620. We were the only customers. We bolted Donna and slurped coffee and talked. Ginger asked me what I planned to do. I told him I was looking for work while waiting for the DSS to come to a decision about my case. When I told him what I told them about my circumstances, he shook his head. Waste of time, mate. Foregone conclusion. They'll say you made you homeless because you left your mum's place voluntarily. You mean I'll get no benefit? Nothing? Not a sausage, mate. You can take it from me. I've seen it too many times. If I don't find work, if it takes a while, how am I supposed to live? He laughed. Anyway, you can, link, old son. Nobody cares, see? Nobody gives a toss. That's the first thing you've got to learn. He smiled. What do you think that so many kids beg the punters for change? Because they like it. I shook my head. Is that what you do? Beg? Yep. All day, every day. And sometimes I don't make the price of a sandwich. Do most people refuse then? Oh, aye. He smiled again. Do you know what a soul credulist is? No. A soul credulist is someone who believes what he reads in the Sun. And do you know what the Sun says? The Sun and 3 or 4 other tabloids. I shook my head. Well, I'll tell you. They say us kids aren't homeless at all. They say we trick the punters out of their change all day and go home to our mums at night with 40, 50 quid in our pockets. And it all goes on drink and drugs. They don't. They bloody do, And the soul credulists believe them all. And that's why they refuse. But it's a lie, I cried. There ought to be a law against it. True, he laughed. There won't be though. It's what they call the freedom of the press. I looked at him. So when my dosh runs out, I'll be begging too, huh? I wouldn't wait till it runs out, mate. Like I said, some days you make sod all. I'd start today if I were you. We lingered in the warmth till breakfast time. Customers began drifting in and the proprietor started giving us dirty licks. Go on, said Ginger. We don't want us to outstay our welcome or he'll bar us. He got up and shouldered his pack. There's a nice washroom through the back there. I'll show you. We used the washroom and left the kebab house just as it was starting to get light. I tagged along with Ginger through the early rush, hoping he'd let me stick with him today. I had a feeling he knew a lot of stuff I'd need to learn if I was to survive in this great cold jungle. It was a raw morning with a sneaky wind which came out of side streets and went straight through you. I thought Ginger was looking for a good spot to sit, somewhere out of the wind with plenty of passers-by, but we just kept walking. We were going south, and I thought, I wish England wasn't an island. Then we could just keep going till we came to Spain or North Africa, somewhere warm and sunny. After a while, I said, where are we off? And he said, don't matter. This weather, got to keep moving. It was daylight now, and there was plenty of people about, and I started noticing how a lot of them would alter course so they wouldn't pass too close to us. Now and then, Ginger would change course too and intercept some guy. "Got any spare change, mate?" he'd ask, and nearly always the guy would go on, but without giving anything. For something to do, I began to study their various responses. Some would simply walk on glassy-eyed and expressionless as though Ginger wasn't there. Some assumed angry expressions, compressing their lips and sweeping by as though grossly insulted. There were head shakers and pocket patters and shruggers who demonstrated through mime the absence of coins in their pockets. And there were those who mutter unintelligibly so you couldn't tell whether they'd said sorry, no change, or bugger off. Once Ginger accosted a stiff, military-looking guy who stopped, looked him up and down as if it was something the cat sicked up, and said, "Change? I'd change you, my lad, if I had you in khaki for 6 weeks." There were lots of secredulists about. Now and then, though, somebody would fork out a few coppers. The givers came in two types: the disdainful and the apologetic. The disdainful type would look down his nose at you, fish in his pocket, drop some coppers in your hand, saying, "There," and move on with his head in the air. The apologetic type, which looked embarrassed and fumble out a fistful of coins, saying something like, I'm sorry, this is all I have," or, "Oh, sorry, but you see, I gave earlier, young man in a doorway." He'd dump the dosh in Ginger's hand without looking to see how much there was and smile apologetically as he moved on. One such giver glanced at me with worried expression as though wondering whether he should give them to me too. We covered some miles that morning, trudging half frozen down Tottenham Court Road on a Shaftesbury Avenue. We crossed Piccadilly Circus and set off along Piccadilly till Ginger stopped and stood at some fancy iron gates and said, "Here we are, mate." "Looks like a church," I said. He chuckled. "It's St. James's. We can take the weight off our feet. Get out of the wind." "Will they let us?" "Yeah. You can get your head down in a pew if you want in the daytime. Locked at night, though." We went in. It was lovely inside, white and gold and clean looking, with vases of flowers and polished woodwork. The only person in there was a battered wino who sat hunched in a pew near the back, muttering to himself. He took no notice of us as we walked down the aisle, slipped into a pew and shrugged off our packs. It was a relief to sit down and great to be out of the icy wind. I was amazed we'd been able to just walk in like that. I felt like I was there under false pretenses and wondered if I should pray or something. Ginger winked and grinned and started counting the change he'd collected. £1.74, he announced, "and a peso. We can have a cheese rolls for lunch, Link, old son. They do an outstanding cheese roll here." "Here?" I thought he was putting me on. "Oh, yeah. There's a calf tagged on the side." "Never." "There is. Go and look if you don't believe me." I shook my head. "You're the expert. I believe you. Only that's your dosh, not mine. I didn't do anything." He looked at me. "Who paid for breakfast?" "Well, I did, but..." "No buts. I pay, you fetch." He smiled. You look more respectable than me. They'll take you for a tourist." There was a cafe and they did an outstanding cheese roll. We ate in a church, which felt disrespectful. But I eased my conscience by telling myself that Jesus ate in people's houses, so he wouldn't mind if someone ate in his. I was happy, I guess, right then. I had a friend, a full belly, and a roof over my head. Who could ask for more? I think one of the interesting things to reflect on as we read this particular chapter clearly is some of the language is perhaps not the type of language that we would use in our daily lives, but it is appropriate to the context of the novel. And when we're reading a novel, context is really important. And if Swindells hadn't put in some of the phrases that he does, it would make his characters less realistic. So as we read through a novel, I think it's really important that we understand that perhaps if a novelist is to create a real life scenario, that it's really important that context is included, even if it might grate against some of the expectations that we might normally have. And I think it's really interesting as well that, we might reflect upon things like how Link is living and the things he is doing, but there is a clear sense that he still wants to be regarded well, and he still wants to be respectful, as he talks about here at the end of this last chapter, but it felt disrespectful to eat in the church. And we have to remember as well, perhaps from our Catholic context and from our Christian context, is that Jesus was an outlier. Jesus was someone who was spurned on many, many occasions, but he did what he felt was right and the right thing to do. And sometimes when we look at outliers, that people that are perhaps not our normal associates, normal friends, normal company, it's easy to objectify them in a way, and that we need to remember that we need to look beyond what we merely see and try and find out who they are. So I'm going to finish with one very short section on page 51 of Daily Routine Orders, and then we'll pick it up on Wednesday. Daily Routine Orders 8. It has happened again. I was on my way to inspect Theatreland when two doffers approached me. One, the scruffier of the two, asked me for change. I responded in my usual way, and as I passed on, I distinctly heard them laughing. I hope for their sakes that they manage to retain that sense of humour, because they'll need it quite soon. I'll never forget her face, and our next meeting will prove far more amusing for me than for them. By golly, it will. I'm not sure if you picked up in that previous chapter where the writer hinted at that event when he talked about if I could get you in car keys, etc., etc. So he created that link between now the two different narratives. So they're starting the two narratives to come together. And clearly what we now have to wonder is Shelter going to be on the lookout for Ginger and Link? And we'll find out more about that as we move forward. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Thanks very much for joining me, and we'll do it all again on Wednesday. Take care. Thank you.